Amiga Power was a popular gaming magazine that compiled 6 lists of the best Amiga games ever from 1991 to 1996. I have taken all 292 unique entries from those lists, added 8 honourable mentions of my own, and used a simple algorithm to rank them all to bring you 300 of the best games on the Amiga. You can find out more information about the algorithm and so on at the link to my blog in the description. We only have an hour, so let's not waste any time and start with number 292 in the list.
Check.
So that's the first 36 games from the tail end of our list out of the way. Now we can take a little breather. We've come to the first of my honourable mentions, games that were either looked over by the team due to age, or left out because of the rules the team set, or because they're games that, despite not being the best, you cannot tell the complete Amiga story without. These choices are my own and are the only original part of this list, although, in choosing some of them, I have referred to their reviews in the magazine as evidence for their inclusion. The first one was an early groundbreaking title which paved the way for cinematic releases that followed. Defender of the Crown was the first killer app for the Amiga. If you bought a new Amiga in 1987 and wanted to prove to others why it was worth it, this was the game you would show them. It's no exaggeration to say that it was both a revelation and a revolution at the time. There was nothing on computer, console, or arcade that could rival its graphical fidelity. Perhaps it's not the most engrossing or mature strategy game in hindsight, but its importance to the story of the Amiga cannot be overstated. Now, back to the list.
show your passport to the customs official.
That's 35 more games down, with plenty still to come. There are lots of notable games, even at such a low part of the list, and simply being chosen by Amiga Power is a sign that you should at least give them a try. But now we've come to the second honourable mention. A game that was never noted for having great gameplay, but was emblematic of the power of the Amiga. If Defender of the Crown was at the beginning of the system's life, at a time when the Atari ST was usually the lead platform, this game was the moment that caused developers to shift focus to the dedicated hardware of the Amiga. Shadow of the Beast represented the moment people realised the power the Amiga had over the ST, when it was really put to good use. The game involves you running through an excessively parallax scrolling landscape, jumping and hitting enemies to progress. The action is straightforward, the difficulty perhaps a little unfair, but taken in its context, it's a significant technical achievement, and you really can't imagine talking about the history of the Amiga without this game. Not the best on the Amiga, but one of the most important. And now, back to the list.
Yeah.
We're a third of the way through our journey, with 108 games already featured, though the last one is cheating a little since the Lost Treasures of Infocom actually includes 20 games in one pack. But let's not split hairs here. With 2/3 of the list still to come, you're probably thinking about what's on the way, but our third honourable mention wasn't eligible to appear in the list at all, since it was released after Amiga Power stopped publishing. Even so, given the reception its predecessor got, it probably wouldn't have been picked anyway. What could I be referring to? Let's find out. Worms the Director's Cut is the definitive Amiga version of the hugely successful franchise, and unlike the original Worms, it sold in extremely low quantities, being at the end of the Amiga's gaming life. In Amiga Power, however, the original game received a lukewarm reception, but it would be unforgivable to leave out such an iconic game, and the Director's Cut is an Amiga exclusive no less. Later entries may have eclipsed this, but for local multiplayer on your Amiga, you won't find much better. Now, let's carry on with our list. It's taken a while, but we've rattled through 144 games, so we're almost at the halfway mark. But we still have so many great Amiga games to showcase, and our fourth honourable mention is certainly one of them. Amiga Power editor Matt Bealby stated in his review of this game that he actually wanted to see it in the first top 100 list, but failed to make his feelings known. So I'm quite happy to correct the historical record on this one. Speaking of history, it's set in the American Civil War, but was very clearly made in Europe. Whatever could it be? I think you probably have an idea. North and South is a game many Amiga owners will have fond memories of. You command an army in the American Civil War, representing either the Union or the Confederacy. It is a strategy game where you move your armies to occupy different states and includes arcade-like battle sequences as you switch between cannons, infantry and cavalry in a bid to defend your territory. You need strategy, skill, and a bit of luck to win battles, but it's all over so quickly that you can just try again. Anyway, allons-y! 180 down and 120 still to come. I hope you're enjoying these short clips of the many games that make up the Amiga Power Top 100 lists, and you can hopefully see that a lot of them are still worth playing today. Our fifth honourable mention might well be one of them too. What's special about it? Well, it was only ever released on the Amiga, it's a Team 17 platformer, and it got 89% in its Amiga Power review, with Matthew Squires calling it not far off perfect. Somehow, it missed the lists, but it's here today. Whatever could it be? Assassin sees you armed with a short-range boomerang weapon and with the ability to scale walls and climb across ceilings. This maneuverability is key to getting through levels in the relatively limited time you have. There are a number of levels, with boss battles and various power-ups to help you in your mission. Once you learn the layout of the levels and master the controls, Assassin becomes a very stylish platformer. Nevertheless, it's time we continued our list.
Oh,
We've broken through the top 100 barrier, but there are plenty of classics still to come. The higher end of the list includes a lot of AGA games, as they were popular in Amiga Power's later years, and some old classics that benefited from multiple appearances on the list. The sixth honourable mention of mine may well be a tad controversial, as it's yet another Team 17 game, and one that doesn't necessarily have a great deal of love today. Nevertheless, it is one of those games you always think of when you think of the Amiga. Let's see what I'm talking about. Superfrog is blessed with the ability to run and jump, and the basic premise is to collect a certain amount of coins before you then exit the level. You can jump on certain enemies' heads and employ the help of a small putty-like creature to be used as a short-range projectile. There are probably lots of aging Amiga addicts who would be mad if this wasn't in the list, so I had to put it in, even if we have more than enough platformers already. Whatever, let's move on.
bingo!
We've passed the highest ranked game to appear on a single list, that being Gravity Power in 1996. So every game from this point on was featured multiple times. That has to be a sign of quality in some way. As we push into the top 50, we'll be seeing some more games that need at least an Amiga 1200 or even a CD32. But we still have 2 more honourable mentions to get through. Number 7 had its predecessor appear quite far down in this list, but is arguably remembered more fondly, especially by 16-bit players. It's another platform game, I'm afraid, but it's a good one. Turrican II may look like just a level pack for the first game, but there are subtle differences. Now you can transform into a gyroscope as many times as you like, and there are modifications to the weapons you can collect, plus your laser beam is easier to control. There's even a shoot 'em up section in the middle. Turrican II is a European platform classic, whichever way you look at it, so I had to put it in the list. Okay, enough of that, let's roll.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Okay, you guys have done very well getting this far through the video. Assuming you actually watched the previous 288 games instead of just skipping ahead. And as we're about to enter the top 10, it's worth pointing out that every game from this point was included in all the Amiga Power Top 100 lists for which they were eligible, which explains why they're so far up this list. I'll be going over the top 5 in more detail, but what about my final honourable mention? Well, I tried to think of a really great game, but, well, you'll see. Monkey Business and Delta Patrol are arguably the first games ever released for the Amiga, at a time when the machine was known more as a proper business and creative device, rather than the gaming powerhouse it subsequently became. Basically, we've got a poor Donkey Kong clone and an even poorer Defender clone, but come on, they're the first games ever. There were too many decent games to pick for my last spot, so I went with this. Let's just finish the video. At number 5 is Exile, a Metroidvania-style game where you fly around with a jetpack and have the ability to teleport out of danger. Rather than simple exploration, the game is a bit of a puzzler that requires lots of lateral thinking. Some say it's one of the hardest games on the Amiga, and it's certainly an unusual game to play, even today. Try it if you fancy a really brutal challenge. At number 4 is Rainbow Islands, a 2-time winner of the Amiga Power Top 100 lists. It's a cutesy platformer where you must guide your little character to the top of the screen collecting power-ups and avoiding baddies as you go. You can fire rainbows, which are used both for offense and to help you ascend the screen. It may look simple, but there's a real addictive appeal to this excellent port. At number 3 is Knights of the Sky, a World War I flight sim in the same vein as Their Finest Hour, featured earlier in this list. Take to the skies in a classic propeller plane from the genesis of powered flight, armed with a machine gun that has a tendency to jam at inopportune moments. It's a little sluggish on an Amiga 500, but give it some juice and it's a really tasty proposition. At number 2 is Dyna Blaster, or Bomberman to most viewers today, a classic game of laying down bombs and hoping the bad guys will get caught in the blast. The single player mode is quite fun, but the game was unique for the time in that you could play with up to 5 human players at once. The best party game for the time, but it just missed out on the top spot in my list. Whatever could be at number 1. At number 1, Speedball II appeared on all 6 Amiga Power lists, mostly near the top, so it narrowly takes the crown. You control a team of 9 players and score points with goals, hitting objects in the arena, or by knocking out your opponents. It's intense, it's brutal, yet still takes some skill to master. It's arguably the Bitmap Brothers' finest moment, a visceral, competitive action game made to perfection. Well, that about wraps it up for the roughly 300 best games ever released for the Commodore Amiga. Was there something missing? Did your personal favourite get snubbed? With such a huge list, I somewhat doubt it, but tell us in the comments anyway. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll want to go play on the Amiga after this too. Happy gaming!